Either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. 3 may keep a secret, if 2 of them are dead. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. He that can have patience can have what he will. You may delay, but time will not. Many people die at 25 and aren't buried until they are 75. A penny saved is a penny earned. In wine there is wisdom, in beer there is freedom, in water there is bacteria. Never ruin an apology with an excuse. We are all born ignorant, but one must work hard to remain stupid. Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. Fear not death, for the sooner we die, the longer we shall be immortal. I didn't fail the test, I just found 100 ways to do it wrong. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety, deserve neither liberty nor safety. How many observe Christ's birthday? How few, his precepts? Being ignorant is not so much a shame, as being unwilling to learn. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. Well done is better than well said. Hide not your talents, they for use were made. What's a sundial in the shade? It is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority. Lost time is never found again. Instead of cursing the darkness, light a candle. If all printers were determined not to print anything till they were sure it would offend nobody, there would be very little printed. I am for doing good to the poor, but I think the best way of doing good to the poor is not making them easy in poverty, but leading or driving them out of it. I observed that the more public provisions were made for the poor, the less they provided for themselves, and of course became poorer. And, on the contrary, the less was done for them, the more they did for themselves, and became richer. The Constitution only guarantees the American people the right to pursue happiness. You have to catch it yourself. Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. Remember not only to say the right thing in the right place, but far more difficult still, to leave unsaid the wrong thing at the tempting moment. The person who deserves most pity is a lonesome one on a rainy day who doesn't know how to read. Dost thou love life? Then do not squander time, for that's the stuff life is made of. Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Never confuse motion with action. Educate your children to self-control, to the habit of holding passion and prejudice and evil tendencies subject to an upright and reasoning will, and you have done much to abolish misery from their future and crimes from society. He that is good for making excuses is seldom good for anything else. Whatever is begun in anger, ends in shame. Do not anticipate trouble, or worry about what may never happen. Keep in the sunlight. Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech. The heart of a fool is in his mouth, but the mouth of a wise man is in his heart. There was never a bad peace or a good war. Be slow in choosing a friend, slower in changing. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Love your enemies, for they tell you your faults. For the want of a nail the shoe was lost. For the want of a shoe the horse was lost. For the want of a horse the rider was lost. For the want of a rider the battle was lost. For the want of a battle the kingdom was lost. And all for the want of a horseshoe nail. When you are finished changing, you're finished. We must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. To find out a girl's faults, praise her to her girlfriends. When you're testing to see how deep water is, never use 2 feet. A slip of the foot you may soon recover, but a slip of the tongue you may never get over. But in this world nothing can be said to be certain, except death and taxes. Life's biggest tragedy is that we get old too soon and wise too late. Trouble knocked at the door, but, hearing laughter, hurried away. Happiness depends more on the inward disposition of mind than on outward circumstances. If you would not be forgotten, as soon as you are dead and rotten, either write things worth reading, or do things worth writing. If Jack's in love, he's no judge of Jill's beauty. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. Make it a rule never to give a child a book you would not read yourself. You see things, you say, why? But I dream things that never were, and I say, why not? If you want to tell people the truth, make them laugh, otherwise they'll kill you. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. Animals are my friends, and I don't eat my friends. Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. There are two tragedies in life. One is to lose your heart's desire. The other is to gain it. Youth is wasted on the young. If you cannot get rid of the family skeleton, you may as well make it dance. There is no love sincerer than the love of food. People are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, make them. Never wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty and the pig likes it. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. When two people are under the influence of the most violent, most insane, most elusive, and most transient of passions, they are required to swear that they will remain in that excited, abnormal, and exhausting condition continuously until death do them part. The liar's punishment is, not in the least that he is not believed, but that he cannot believe anyone else. Why should we take advice on sex from the Pope? If he knows anything about it, he shouldn't. Success does not consist in never making mistakes but in never making the same one a second time. A Native American elder once described his own inner struggles in this manner: inside of me there are two dogs. One of the dogs is mean and evil. The other dog is good. The mean dog fights the good dog all the time. When asked which dog wins, he reflected for a moment and replied, "The one I feed the most." I am enclosing 2 tickets to the first night of my new play. Bring a friend, if you have one. Cannot possibly attend first night, will attend second, if there is one. Patriotism is, fundamentally, a conviction that a particular country is the best in the world because you were born in it. A pessimist is a man who thinks everybody is as nasty as himself, and hates them for it. Dancing is a perpendicular expression of a horizontal desire. My way of joking is to tell the truth. It's the funniest joke in the world. If you have an apple and I have an apple and we exchange these apples, then you and I will still each have 1 apple. But if you have an idea and I have an idea and we exchange these ideas, then each of us will have 2 ideas. After all, the wrong road always leads somewhere. The play was a great success, but audience was a dismal failure. Hatred is the coward's revenge for being intimidated. Both optimists and pessimists contribute to society. The optimist invents the aeroplane, the pessimist the parachute. You don't stop laughing when you grow old, you grow old when you stop laughing. Liberty means responsibility. That is why most men dread it. The only man who behaved sensibly was my tailor. He took my measure anew every time he saw me, whilst all the rest went on with their old measurements and expected them to fit me. My religious convictions and scientific views cannot at present be more specifically defined than as those of a believer in creative evolution. I desire that no public monument or work of art or inscription or sermon or ritual service commemorating me shall suggest that I accepted the tenets peculiar to any established church or denomination, nor take the form of a cross or any other instrument of torture or symbol of blood sacrifice. When a thing is funny, search it carefully for a hidden truth. The fact that a believer is happier than a skeptic is no more to the point than the fact that a drunken man is happier than a sober one. The happiness of credulity is a cheap and dangerous quality of happiness, and by no means a necessity of life. The man who writes about himself and his own time is the only man who writes about all people and all time. All great truths begin as blasphemies. There are those that look at things the way they are, and ask why. I dream of things that never were, and ask why not. Without art, the crudeness of reality would make the world unbearable. I often quote myself. It adds spice to my conversation. Everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. Wheresoever you go, go with all your heart. He who knows all the answers has not been asked all the questions. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. If you make a mistake and do not correct it, this is called a mistake. Study the past if you would define the future. The funniest people are the saddest ones. Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. To be wronged is nothing, unless you continue to remember it. Respect yourself and others will respect you. The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute, the man who does not ask is a fool for life. When you see a good person, think of becoming like her/him. When you see someone not so good, reflect on your own weak points. Silence is a true friend who never betrays. Attack the evil that is within yourself, rather than attacking the evil that is in others. You cannot open a book without learning something. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. The hardest thing of all is to find a black cat in a dark room, especially if there is no cat. Music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. We have 2 lives, and the second begins when we realize we only have one. Give a bowl of rice to a man and you will feed him for a day. Teach him how to grow his own rice and you will save his life. The gem cannot be polished without friction, nor man perfected without trials. The way out is through the door. Why is it that no one will use this method? It is not the failure of others to appreciate your abilities that should trouble you, but rather your failure to appreciate theirs. The man of wisdom is never of 2 minds. The man of benevolence never worries. The man of courage is never afraid. Only the wisest and stupidest of men never change. It is more shameful to distrust our friends than to be deceived by them. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. And remember, no matter where you go, there you are. If what one has to say is not better than silence, then one should keep silent. Hold faithfulness and sincerity as first principles. To be wealthy and honored in an unjust society is a disgrace. Better a diamond with a flaw than a pebble without. To put the world in order, we must first put the nation in order. To put the nation in order, we must first put the family in order. To put the family in order, we must first cultivate our personal life. We must first set our hearts right. When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps. Forget injuries, never forget kindnesses. Don't do unto others what you don't want done unto you. If your plan is for 1 year, plant rice. If your plan is for 10 years, plant trees. If your plan is for 100 years, educate children. In a country well governed, poverty is something to be ashamed of. In a country badly governed, wealth is something to be ashamed of. A lion chased me up a tree, and I greatly enjoyed the view from the top. Education breeds confidence. Confidence breeds hope. Hope breeds peace. To see what is right and not do it is the worst cowardice. The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper name. When a wise man points at the moon, the imbecile examines the finger. Time flows away like the water in the river. Don't complain about the snow on your neighbor's roof when your own doorstep is unclean. The master said, "A true gentleman is one who has set his heart upon the way." A fellow who is ashamed merely of shabby clothing or modest meals is not even worth conversing with. Without knowing the force of words, it is impossible to know more. The man who says he can, and the man who says he cannot, are both correct. Consideration for others is the basis of a good life, a good society. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. Su Chang asked Confucius about Zen. Confucius said, "If you can practice these 5 things with all the people, you can be called Zen." Su Chang asked what they were. Confucius said, "Courtesy, generosity, honesty, persistence, and kindness. If you are courteous, you will not be disrespected. If you are generous, you will gain everything. If you are honest, people will rely on you. If you are persistent, you will get results. If you are kind, you can employ people. Have no friends not equal to yourself. The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions." Without music, life would be a mistake. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. In heaven, all the interesting people are missing. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. There are no facts, only interpretations. I am a forest, and a night of dark trees, but he who is not afraid of my darkness, will find banks full of roses. All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. The man of knowledge must be able not only to love his enemies but also to hate his friends. He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if thou gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will also gaze into thee. The essence of all beautiful art, all great art, is gratitude. It is hard enough to remember my opinions, without also remembering my reasons for them. You have your way. I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist. The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die. As well the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions, they cease to be mind. Invisible threads are the strongest ties. The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. When we are tired, we are attacked by ideas we conquered long ago. He who possesses art and science has religion, he who does not possess them, needs religion. A thinker sees his own actions as experiments and questions as attempts to find out something. Success and failure are for him answers above all. Man is the cruelest animal. Whoever battles with monsters had better see that it does not turn him into a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. In individuals, insanity is rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. To be your own man is a hard business. If you try it, you'll be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. The best weapon against an enemy is another enemy. The advantage of a bad memory is that one enjoys several times the same good things for the first time. I cannot believe in a God who wants to be praised all the time. There are no beautiful surfaces without a terrible depth. In every real man, a child is hidden that wants to play. We love life, not because we are used to living but because we are used to loving. The greatest happiness you can have is knowing that you do not necessarily require happiness. The most common lie is that which one lies to himself, lying to others is relatively an exception. The true man wants two things, danger and play. For that reason he wants woman, as the most dangerous plaything. A good writer possesses not only his own spirit but also the spirit of his friends. All credibility, all good conscience, all evidence of truth come only from the senses. The thought of suicide is a great consolation. By means of it one gets through many a dark night. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. The demand to be loved is the greatest of all arrogant presumptions. The future influences the present just as much as the past. When you look into an abyss, the abyss also looks into you. Beware that, when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster, for when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you. We often refuse to accept an idea merely because the way in which it has been expressed is unsympathetic to us. Faith, not wanting to know what is true. In every real man a child is hidden that wants to play. The greatest hazard of all, losing one's self, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all. No other loss can occur so quietly. Any other loss, an arm, a leg, $5, a wife, etc., is sure to be noticed. The man who fights for his ideals is the man who is alive. To forget one's purpose is the commonest form of stupidity. A woman may very well form a friendship with a man, but for this to endure, it must be assisted by a little physical antipathy. The most important things are the hardest to say, because words diminish them. When one has a great deal to put into it, a day has 100 pockets. Mystical explanations are considered deep. The truth is they are not even shallow. It is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages. In individuals, insanity is rare, but in groups, parties, nations and epochs, it is the rule. In architecture, as in all other operative arts, the end must direct the operation. The end is to build well. Well building has three conditions: commodity, firmness, and delight. The most common form of human stupidity is forgetting what one is trying to do. You need chaos in your soul to give birth to a dancing star. There are two different types of people in the world, those who want to know, and those who want to believe. The man of knowledge must be able not only to love his enemies but also to hate his friends. In revenge and in love, woman is more barbaric than man. The true man wants two things, danger and play. For that reason, he wants woman as the most dangerous plaything. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. To be your own man is a hard business. If you try it, you'll be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Our mind is capable of passing beyond the dividing line we have drawn for it. If you hate a person, you hate something in him that is part of yourself. I am a part of everything that I have read. The true profession of a man is to find his way to himself. Love must not entreat, she added, or demand. Love must have the strength to become certain within itself. Then it ceases merely to be attracted and begins to attract. If I know what love is, it is because of you. It is not for me to judge another man's life. I must judge, I must choose, I must spurn, purely for myself. For myself, alone. One never reaches home, but wherever friendly paths intersect the whole world looks like home for a time. The man who seeks to educate himself must first read and then travel in order to correct what he has learned. Solitude is independence. There is no reality except the one contained within us. To be able to say how much love is love but little. If you want to learn about the sea, go to the sea and not the shore. We are not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. Some of us think holding on makes us strong, but sometimes it is letting go. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. The call of death is a call of love. Death can be sweet if we answer it in the affirmative, if we accept it as one of the great eternal forms of life and transformation. We are sun and moon, dear friend, we are sea and land. It is not our purpose to become each other, it is to recognize each other, to learn to see the other and honor him for what he is, each the other's opposite and complement. Learn what is to be taken seriously and laugh at the rest. We all have our own paths to walk, our own journeys to take. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. If you hate a person, you hate something in him that is part of yourself. What isn't part of ourselves doesn't disturb us. It is not our purpose to become each other, it is to recognize each other, to learn to see the other and honor him for what he is. For me, trees have always been the most penetrating creatures. I revere them when they live in tribes and families, in forests and groves. And even more I revere them when they stand alone. They are like lonely persons. Not like hermits who have stolen away out of some weakness, but like great, solitary men, like Beethoven and Nietzsche. In their highest boughs the world rustles, their roots rest in infinity, but they do not lose themselves there, they struggle with all the force of their lives for one thing only, to fulfill themselves according to their own laws, to build up their own form, to represent themselves. Nothing is holier, nothing is more exemplary than a beautiful, strong tree. The world is full of magic things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper. Man is not by any means a fixed and enduring form, he is much more an experiment and a transition. We are not going in circles, we are going upwards. The path is a spiral, we have already climbed many steps. I have been and still am a seeker, but I have ceased to question stars and books, I have begun to listen to the teaching my blood whispers to me. There is no reality except the one contained within us. That is why so many people live such an unreal life. They take the images outside them for reality and never allow the world within to assert itself. Everything that exists in the world has a hidden meaning. There is nothing that is without meaning. A true seeker of the truth never knows what he will find. The true profession of man is to find his way to himself. Siddhartha said to himself, "What is the use of going out or talking to people? They are all fools and dreamers, and I am also a fool and a dreamer." Wisdom cannot be imparted. Wisdom that a wise man attempts to impart always sounds like foolishness to someone else. Knowledge can be communicated, but not wisdom. Love must not entreat, she added, or demand. Love must have the strength to become certain within itself. Then it ceases merely to be attracted and begins to attract. We kill time. We save time. We rob and get robbed of time, we lose time, and we have all the time in the world. But no one is powerful enough to stop the march of time or slow it down. The essence of independence is to be able to do something for oneself. I live in my dreams, that's what you sense. Other people live in dreams, but not in their own. That's the difference. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. A person who has never been completely happy and satisfied with the little things in life, can never be truly happy and satisfied with the big things in life. What you call passion is not spiritual force, but friction between the soul and the outside world. It is not despair, for despair is only for those who see the end beyond all doubt. We do not. When we are stricken and cannot bear our lives any longer, then a tree has something to say to us: be still. Be still. Look at me. Life is not easy, life is not difficult. Those are childish thoughts. Let God speak within you, and your thoughts will grow silent. The wise man is always a good listener. Our mind is capable of passing beyond the dividing line we have drawn for it. If you have to support yourself, you had bloody well better find some way that is going to be interesting. And you don't do that by sitting around. All seeking of the truth is but a seeking of the self. At every step, one has to be brave. One must not always think so much about what one should do, but rather what one should be. We are sun and moon, dear friend, we are sea and land. It is not our purpose to become each other, it is to recognize each other, to learn to see the other and honor him for what he is, each the other's opposite and complement. The secret of success is to do the common thing uncommonly well. I believe in the dignity of labor, whether with head or hand. If you want to succeed, you should strike out on new paths, rather than travel the worn paths of accepted success. Charity is injurious unless it helps the recipient to become independent of it. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. I do not think there is any other quality so essential to success of any kind as the quality of perseverance. It overcomes almost everything, even nature. I have ways of making money that you know nothing of. The most important thing for a young man is to establish a credit, a reputation, character. Success comes from keeping the ears open and the mouth closed. I know of nothing more despicable and pathetic than a man who devotes all the hours of the waking day to the making of money for money's sake. The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee. And I will pay more for that ability than for any other under the sun. The only question with wealth is, what do you do with it? I have no patience with the person who thinks wealth consists in a fine array of horses or cars. It's hard to beat a person who never gives up. The person who starts out simply with the idea of getting rich won't succeed. You must have a larger ambition. A friendship founded on business is better than a business founded on friendship. The most important thing in life is not to capitalize on your gains. Any fool can do that. The really important thing is to profit from your losses. That requires intelligence, and makes the difference between a man of sense and a fool. Don't blame the marketing department. The buck stops with the chief executive. The way to make money is to buy when blood is running in the streets. The impression was gaining ground with me that it was a good thing to let the money be my slave and not make myself a slave to money. Good leadership consists of showing average people how to do the work of superior people. The only thing that gives me pleasure is to see my dividend coming in. The growth of a large business is merely a survival of the fittest. I know of nothing more despicable and pathetic than a man who devotes all the hours of the waking day to the making of money for money's sake. I would rather earn 1% off of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own efforts. It is wrong to assume that men of immense wealth are always happy. Success in business requires training and discipline and hard work. But if you're not frightened by these things, the opportunities are just as great today as they ever were. The day of combination is here to stay. Individualism has gone, never to return. I believe in the supreme worth of the individual and in his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. I believe that thrift is essential to well-ordered living and that economy is a prime requisite of a sound financial structure, whether in government, business, or personal affairs. I do not think there is any other quality so essential to success of any kind as the quality of perseverance. It overcomes almost everything, even nature. I believe that every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity, an obligation, every possession, a duty. The way to make money is to buy when blood is running in the streets. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. He who knows others is wise, he who knows himself is enlightened. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Silence is a source of great strength. Be content with what you have, rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. The wise man does not lay up his own treasures. The more he gives to others, the more he has for his own. Do the difficult things while they are easy and do the great things while they are small. A journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step. The key to growth is the introduction of higher dimensions of consciousness into our awareness. If you do not change direction, you may end up where you are heading. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. At the center of your being you have the answer, you know who you are and you know what you want. A leader is best when people barely know he exists, when his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did it ourselves." The wise speak only of what they know. Knowing others is intelligence, knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength, mastering yourself is true power. The power of intuitive understanding will protect you from harm until the end of your days. The best fighter is never angry. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day. He who conquers others is strong, he who conquers himself is mighty. The more laws and order are made prominent, the more thieves and robbers there will be. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent on arriving. The wise find pleasure in water, the virtuous find pleasure in hills. The wise are active, the virtuous are tranquil. The wise are joyful, the virtuous are long-lived. Anticipate the difficult by managing the easy. The flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everybody will respect you. The greatest gift you can give someone is your own personal development. If you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Simplicity, patience, compassion. These three are your greatest treasures. Simple in actions and thoughts, you return to the source of being. Patient with both friends and enemies, you accord with the way things are. Compassionate toward yourself, you reconcile all beings in the world. When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Be still like a mountain and flow like a great river. The more you know yourself, the more clarity there is. Self-knowledge has no end. Kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but it helps to wear good shoes. The Tao is like a well, used often, but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. Respond intelligently even to unintelligent treatment. He who knows himself is enlightened. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them, that only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. To lead people, walk beside them. As for the best leaders, the people do not notice their existence. The next best, the people honor and praise. The next, the people fear, and the next, the people hate. When the best leader's work is done, the people say, "We did it ourselves." If you want to be a great leader, you must learn to follow the Tao. Stop trying to control. Let go of fixed plans and concepts, and the world will govern itself. The wise adapt themselves to circumstances, as water molds itself to the pitcher. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent on arriving. He who is contented is rich. Act without expectation. The journey is the reward. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. The softest things in the world overcome the hardest things in the world. Do not look only at yourself, and you will see much. Do not justify yourself, and you will be distinguished. Do not brag, and you will have merit. Do not be prideful, and your work will endure. One who is too insistent on his own views, finds few to agree with him. Those who have knowledge, don't predict. Those who predict, don't have knowledge. Be careful what you water your dreams with. Water them with worry and fear and you will produce weeds that choke the life from your dream. Water them with optimism and solutions and you will cultivate success. The wise man does not lay up his own treasures. The more he gives to others, the more he has for his own. The highest good is like water. Water gives life to the 10,000 things and does not strive. It flows in places men reject and so is like the Tao. In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. To know that you do not know is the highest. To pretend to know when you do not know is a disease. Care about what other people think and you will always be their prisoner. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you. The wise man is one who knows what he does not know. Do not be afraid of enemies, the worst they can do is kill you. Do not be afraid of friends, the worst they can do is betray you. Be afraid of the indifferent, they do not kill or betray. Yet only because of their silent agreement, betrayal and murder exist on earth. A leader is best when people barely know he exists, when his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did it ourselves." If you want to awaken all of humanity, then awaken all of yourself. Impossible is a word to be found only in the dictionary of fools. A leader is a dealer in hope. History is the version of past events that people have decided to agree upon. The best way to keep one's word is not to give it. The word impossible is not in my dictionary. Victory belongs to the most persevering. The battlefield is a scene of constant chaos. The winner will be the one who controls that chaos, both his own and the enemy's. Ability is nothing without opportunity. I have made my final judgment on him, and he is a man of no talent. If you want a thing done well, do it yourself. Power is my mistress. I have worked too hard at her conquest to allow anyone to take her away from me. Glory is fleeting, but obscurity is forever. The first virtue in a soldier is endurance of fatigue, courage is only the second virtue. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. A true man hates no one. Death is nothing, but to live defeated and inglorious is to die daily. The only way to lead men is to show them a goal, a direction, and a way to get there. A true man of honor feels humbled himself when he cannot help humbling others. The strong man is the one who is able to intercept at will the communication between the senses and the mind. The truest wisdom is a resolute determination. The art of government is not to let me grow stale. There is no such thing as accident, it is fate misnamed. I am the successor, not of Louis XVI, but of Charlemagne. Take time to deliberate, but when the time for action has arrived, stop thinking and go in. If you build an army of 100 lions and their leader is a dog, in any fight, the lions will die like a dog. But if you build an army of 100 dogs and their leader is a lion, all dogs will fight like a lion. The truest wisdom is a resolute determination. The only way to deal with the enemy is to strike hard and strike first. The best way to keep one's word is not to give it. One must change one's tactics every 10 years if one wishes to maintain one's superiority. There is no such thing as an accident. What we call an accident is a manifestation of a law which we do not understand. The truest wisdom is a resolute determination. In politics, stupidity is not a handicap. A leader is a dealer in hope. He who fears being conquered is sure of defeat. War is 90% information. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. The best cure for the body is a quiet mind. If you want a thing done well, do it yourself. What is history but a fable agreed upon? There are only two forces in the world, the sword and the spirit. In the long run, the sword will always be conquered by the spirit. The French complain of everything, and always. The art of war is to win without fighting. The greatest danger occurs at the moment of victory. The surest way to remain poor is to be honest. The hand that gives is above the hand that takes. The only thing that matters is action. I can no longer obey, I have tasted command, and I cannot give it up. A throne is only a bench covered with velvet. A man cannot become a hero until he sees the root of his own downfall. I have only one counsel for you, be master. It is the cause, not the death, that makes the martyr. The true character of a nation is revealed by its leader. The great proof of madness is the disproportion of one's designs to one's means. It is not necessary to bury the truth. It is sufficient merely to delay it until nobody cares. Great ambition is the passion of a great character. Those endowed with it may perform very good or very bad acts. All depends on the principles which direct them. The reason most people fail instead of succeed is they trade what they want most for what they want at the moment. There are but two powers in the world, the sword and the mind. In the long run the sword is always beaten by the mind. The word impossible is not in my dictionary. Religion is excellent stuff for keeping common people quiet. What is the difference between a coward and a hero? 1 minute. You become strong by defying defeat and by turning loss into gain and failure to success. Great men are meteors designed to burn so that the earth may be lighted. The surest way to remain poor is to be an honest man. Never ascribe to malice that which is adequately explained by incompetence. A man's palate can, in time, become accustomed to anything. Men are moved by two levers only, fear and self-interest. Religion is what keeps the poor from murdering the rich. The greatest danger occurs at the moment of victory. The human race is governed by its imagination. I am the state. The wise make proverbs and fools repeat them. To be successful, one must be decisive. The most difficult thing in the world is to know how to do a thing and to watch somebody else do it wrong without comment. The true mark of a leader is the willingness to stick with a bold course of action, an unconventional business strategy, a unique product development roadmap, a controversial marketing campaign, even as the rest of the world wonders why you're not marching in step with the status quo. In other words, real leaders are happy to zig while others zag. They understand that in an era of hyper-competition and non-stop disruption, the only way to stand out from the crowd is to stand for something special. If you wish to be a success in the world, promise everything, deliver nothing. The art of war is simple enough. Find out where your enemy is. Get at him as soon as you can. Strike him as hard as you can and keep moving. Politics is the art of the possible. Not by speeches and votes of the majority, are the great questions of the time decided. That was the mistake of 1848 and 1849. But by iron and blood. The great questions of the day will not be settled by means of speeches and majority decisions but by iron and blood. A statesman cannot create anything himself. He must wait and listen until he hears the steps of God sounding through events, then leap up and grasp the hem of his garment. Anyone who has ever looked into the glazed eyes of a soldier dying on the battlefield will think hard before starting a war. The secret of politics? Make a good treaty with Russia. The only healthy basis of a country's power is its economic strength. Laws are like sausages, it is better not to see them being made. The main thing is to make history, not to write it. The great questions of the day will not be settled by speeches and majority decisions but by iron and blood. The most difficult thing is to keep politics separate from personal issues. Politics is the art of the possible, the attainable, the art of the next best. There is a providence that protects idiots, drunkards, children, and the United States of America. A really great man is known by 3 signs: generosity in the design, humanity in the execution, moderation in success. A government must not waver once it has chosen its course. It must not look to the left or right but go forward. The statesman's task is to hear God's footsteps marching through history and then to try and catch on to his coattails as he marches past. Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others. The best a politician can do is to bring some order into chaos and to control and direct some of the forces which assail him. The great thing in this world is not so much where we stand, as in what direction we are moving. Be polite, write diplomatically, even in a declaration of war one observes the rules of politeness. If there is one place on the face of earth where all the dreams of living men have found a home from the very earliest days when man began the dream of existence, it is India. Politics is not an exact science. People never lie so much as after a hunt, during a war or before an election. The less people know about how sausages and laws are made, the better they'll sleep at night. The statesman who sees difficulties and dangers and shrinks from them is false to his duty and to his trust. Politics is the art of the possible, and the attainable, the art of the next best. The great questions of the day will not be settled by means of speeches and majority decisions but by iron and blood. When you say you agree to a thing in principle, you mean that you have not the slightest intention of carrying it out in practice. The man who is born with a talent which he was meant to use finds his greatest happiness in using it. No one respects a talent that is concealed. The people never give up their liberties but under some delusion. Be polite, write diplomatically, even in a declaration of war one observes the rules of politeness. The best way to prevent war is not to fear it. Politics is not a game. It is an earnest business. A statesman must follow public opinion, not lead it. The great art of statesmanship is to give the impression of being in control when, in fact, you are not. People never lie so much as after a hunt, during a war, or before an election. The less people know about how sausages and laws are made, the better they'll sleep at night. The statesman who sees difficulties and dangers and shrinks from them is false to his duty and to his trust. Politics is not an exact science, but an art. The most difficult thing is to keep politics separate from personal issues. The great thing in this world is not so much where we stand, as in what direction we are moving. Be polite, write diplomatically, even in a declaration of war one observes the rules of politeness. The statesman's task is to hear God's footsteps marching through history and then to try and catch on to his coattails as he marches past. Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others. A government must not waver once it has chosen its course. It must not look to the left or right but go forward. The statesman who listens to the whisperings of passion or the prejudices of the moment will ruin his country. The greatest joy a man can know is to conquer his enemies and drive them before him. to ride their horses and take away their possessions. A really great man is known by 3 signs: generosity in the design, humanity in the execution, moderation in success. A statesman cannot create anything himself. He must wait and listen until he hears the steps of God sounding through events, then leap up and grasp the hem of his garment. The only healthy basis of a country's power is its economic strength. The main thing is to make history, not to write it. Not by speeches and votes of the majority, are the great questions of the time decided. That was the mistake of 1848 and 1849, but by iron and blood. Anyone who has ever looked into the glazed eyes of a soldier dying on the battlefield will think hard before starting a war. The great questions of the day will not be settled by means of speeches and majority decisions but by iron and blood. A statesman's duty is to the people, and not to himself or his party. The only thing that matters in politics is results. The welfare of the people is the ultimate law. It is not by speeches and votes of the majority that great questions of the time are decided, but by iron and blood. The great questions of the day are not decided by speeches and majority votes, but by blood and iron. The future is not a gift. It is an achievement. Politics is the art of the possible, the attainable, the art of the next best. Wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. At the touch of love everyone becomes a poet. Courage is knowing what not to fear. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. Knowledge which is acquired under compulsion obtains no hold on the mind. The measure of a man is what he does with power. He who commits injustice is ever made more wretched than he who suffers it. The heaviest penalty for declining to rule is to be ruled by someone inferior to yourself. Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. There is truth in wine and children. Knowledge that is not communicated is wasted knowledge. The beginning is the most important part of the work. The soul of man is immortal and imperishable. The price of apathy towards public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. Ideas are the source of all things. We are twice armed if we fight with faith. The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. Justice in the life and conduct of the state is possible only as first it resides in the hearts and souls of the citizens. Excess of liberty, whether it lies in state or individuals, seems only to pass into excess of slavery. The measure of a man is what he does with power. Democracy is a charming form of government, full of variety and disorder, and dispensing a sort of equality to equals and unequals alike. The soul of man is immortal and imperishable. Opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. Wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. Human behavior flows from 3 main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. Courage is a kind of salvation. The highest reach of injustice is to be deemed just when you are not. The measure of a man is what he does with power. The direction in which education starts a man will determine his future in life. I know that I am intelligent, because I know that I know nothing. The heaviest penalty for declining to rule is to be ruled by someone inferior to yourself. Music is the movement of sound to reach the soul for the education of its virtue. The heaviest penalty for declining to rule is to be ruled by someone inferior to yourself. To be a true philosopher, one must be able to separate one's thoughts from one's emotions. The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil. The object of education is to teach us to love what is beautiful. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. We do not learn, and that what we call learning is only a process of recollection. Courage is knowing what not to fear. Courage is a kind of salvation. Ideas are the source of all things. The beginning is the most important part of the work. The measure of a man is what he does with power. Democracy is a charming form of government, full of variety and disorder, and dispensing a sort of equality to equals and unequals alike. Opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. Wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. Human behavior flows from three main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. Justice in the life and conduct of the state is possible only as first it resides in the hearts and souls of the citizens. Excess of liberty, whether it lies in state or individuals, seems only to pass into excess of slavery. The soul of man is immortal and imperishable. The price of apathy towards public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. The direction in which education starts a man will determine his future in life. I know that I am intelligent, because I know that I know nothing. The heaviest penalty for declining to rule is to be ruled by someone inferior to yourself. Music is the movement of sound to reach the soul for the education of its virtue. To be a true philosopher, one must be able to separate one's thoughts from one's emotions. The object of education is to teach us to love what is beautiful. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. We do not learn, and that what we call learning is only a process of recollection. The highest reach of injustice is to be deemed just when you are not. An empty vessel makes the loudest sound, so they that have the least wit are the greatest babblers. Ignorance, the root and stem of all evil. Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. Better a little which is well done, than a great deal imperfectly. Where ID was, there ego shall be. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. The mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious. A man who has been the indisputable favorite of his mother keeps for life the feeling of a conqueror. Civilization began the first time an angry person cast a word instead of a rock. Neurotics complain of their illness, but they make the most of it, and when it comes to talking it away from them they will defend it like a lioness her young. The mind is its own place and in itself, can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. Time spent with cats is never wasted. Love and work, work and love, that's all there is. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. One is very crazy when in love. We are what we are because we have been what we have been. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is, what does a woman want? No one who, like me, conjures up the most evil of those half-tamed demons that inhabit the human breast, and seeks to wrestle with them, can expect to come through the struggle unscathed. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source and prototype of the affect of anxiety. The ego is not master in its own house. The unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. Religion is an illusion, and it derives its strength from the fact that it falls in with our instinctual desires. The mind is like a muscle, it only grows stronger with use. From error to error, one discovers the entire truth. The more perfect the artist, the more completely separate in him will be the man who suffers and the mind which creates. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. They can transfer knowledge from teacher to student. Words enable the orator to sway his audience and dictate its decisions. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions. The goal of all life is death. Everywhere I go I find that a poet has been there before me. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love, never so helplessly unhappy as when we have lost our loved object or its love. The interpretation of dreams is a great art. Where there is love, there is also the desire to express it. We are not what we seem, but what we are a few who know. The goal of psychoanalysis is to liberate the unconscious and its repressed contents, and thereby to enable the individual to lead a more fulfilled life. The mind is like a city, it contains both light and darkness. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. Anatomy is destiny. The individual does actually carry on a double existence, one designed to serve his own purposes and another as a link in a chain, in which he serves against, or at any rate without, any volition of his own. I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. The great question, which I have not been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is, what does a woman want? The more one loves, the more one suffers. Man's most important possession is his dignity and the power to use it. Anatomy is destiny only insofar as it is not the destiny of the entire organism. A cigar may just be a cigar, but sex is never just sex. The ego is not a master in its own house. The mind is not a vessel to be filled but a fire to be kindled. Out of difficulties grow miracles. The only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and change. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. We are what we remember and what we forget. We are all born sexual creatures, thank God, but it's a pity so many people despise and crush this natural gift. Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. All warfare is based on deception. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. The greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. To fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. The wise warrior avoids the battle. In war, the way is to avoid what is strong, and to strike at what is weak. When the enemy is relaxed, make them toil. When full, starve them. When settled, make them move. He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not, will be victorious. The whole secret lies in confusing the enemy, so that he cannot fathom our real intent. In war, the greatest victory is to be able to subdue the enemy without fighting. The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. A leader leads by example, not by force. When strong, avoid them. If of high morale, depress them. Seem humble to fill them with conceit. If at ease, exhaust them. If united, separate them. Attack their weaknesses. Emerge to their surprise. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. One may know how to conquer without being able to do it. A good commander is benevolent and unconcerned with fame. If you wait by the river long enough, the bodies of your enemies will float by. If you want to know your enemy, become your enemy. The wise warrior avoids the battle. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. There is no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare. The greatest victory is that which requires no battle. Build your opponent a golden bridge to retreat across. All warfare is based on deception. The greatest victory is who defeat the enemy without battle. The opportunity to secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. When the enemy is relaxed, make them toil. When full, starve them. When settled, make them move. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. To win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the acme of skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. Treat your men as you would your own beloved sons. And they will follow you into the deepest valley. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. To fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. There is no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare. The skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. He captures their cities without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations in the field. He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not, will be victorious. In war, the way is to avoid what is strong, and to strike at what is weak. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Attack is the secret of defense, defense is the planning of an attack. The greatest victory is who defeat the enemy without battle. All men can see these tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy out of which victory is evolved. One who is skillful in defeating the enemy does not become enraged. One who is skillful in fighting does not become angry. Thus, such person wins easily. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, then men's weapons will grow dull and their ardor will be dampened. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. Move swift as the wind and closely formed as the wood. Attack like the fire and be still as the mountain. One may know how to conquer without being able to do it. The wise warrior avoids the battle. Build your opponent a golden bridge to retreat across. All warfare is based on deception. There are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combinations of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever been seen. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Know yourself and you will win all battles. In war, the only true guide is your own experience. Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. To improve is to change, so to be perfect is to have changed often. Never, never, never give up. I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. The price of greatness is responsibility. History will be kind to me, for I intend to write it. If you're going through hell, keep going. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. If you have an important point to make, don't try to be subtle or clever. Use a pile driver. Hit the point once. Then come back and hit it again. Then hit it a third time, a tremendous whack. A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. My most brilliant achievement was my ability to be able to persuade my wife to marry me. The greatest lesson in life is to know that even fools are right sometimes. You have enemies? Good. That means you've stood up for something, sometime in your life. In war, as in life, it is often necessary, when some cherished scheme has failed, to take up the best alternative open, and if so, it is folly not to work for it with all your might. The empires of the future are the empires of the mind. The farther backward you can look, the farther forward you can see. We shape our buildings, thereafter they shape us. If you're not a liberal at 20, you have no heart. If you're not a conservative at 40, you have no brain. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. Out of intense complexities, intense simplicities emerge. I have taken more out of alcohol than alcohol has taken out of me. The pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. We are all worms. But I do believe that I am a glowworm. In finance, everything that is agreeable is unsound and everything that is sound is disagreeable. I am an optimist. It does not seem too much use being anything else. A good speech should be like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover the subject and short enough to create interest. All great things are simple, and many can be expressed in single words: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. I like a man who grins when he fights. If you are going to go through hell, keep going. If you're not first, you're last. The greatest lesson in life is to know that even fools are right sometimes. The problems of victory are more agreeable than those of defeat, but they are no less difficult. Difficulties mastered are opportunities won. The first quality that is needed is audacity. A fanatic is one who can't change his mind and won't change the subject. I have never developed indigestion from eating my words. Healthy citizens are the greatest asset any country can have. We are all worms, but I do believe I am a glowworm. There is nothing wrong with change, if it is in the right direction. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, an optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. We are still masters of our fate. We are still captains of our souls. It is not enough to have qualities, we must also have the management of them. Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. A nation that forgets its past has no future. Politics is the ability to foretell what is going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, and next year. And to have the ability afterwards to explain why it didn't happen. The price of greatness is responsibility. The best way to predict your future is to create it. We are masters of the unsaid words, but slaves of those we let slip out. The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is. We are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. I have never developed indigestion from eating my words. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. There is no time for ease and comfort. It is time to dare and endure. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.